Okay, gang, really quick before we jump into the video. You may or may not know that I left academia a few years back for broadcasting, but teaching the next generation has and always will be on my heart. I've been broadcasting now through 3 election cycles, and I'm just sick at what the elites have done to our education system. So I decided to step up. My team and I have been working on this for well over a year now. I started a school, and I have absolutely massive plans to take it nationwide. The Worldview Institute of Entrepreneurship and Apprenticeship opens its first location in Lancaster, Pennsylvania on April 9th, and I want to invite you to the ribbon cutting. And I built a whole amazing event around it, so I want you to come and join me at the Kingdom Builders Experience, April 9th through 11th. You'll get an exclusive invite to the school's ribbon cutting. You'll be invited to a special Scotch and Cigars meetup with yours truly. I'll be lecturing at the school, plus we're hosting a Business Makers Summit where education meets opportunity. Now, seats are limited. Click the link below to learn more, and I can't wait to see you there.
An update in the district. Black Lives Matter Plaza is officially a memory. Yesterday, crews removed the landmark yellow letters from 16th Street. The plaza was dedicated in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. It came under fire from the Trump administration earlier this month. Now, within days, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced plans to redo it. Moving forward, she wants local artists and student artwork displayed there.
Yeah, good luck with that. Not if President Trump has anything to say about it. Gang, this is what the Black Lives Matter Plaza looks like as of today. It's gone. I mean, gone. I mean, it's been completely removed. And it's not just the BLM Plaza. At the very same time, President Trump has ordered the restoration of monuments and statues taken down during the Biden administration all across the country. Trump has just signed an executive order that's aimed at restoring truth and sanity to the American history, as he says it, through an overhaul of the Smithsonian Institute and historical sites around the United States. The order will have the effect of putting back a number of historical monuments across the nation that were taken down during the Biden years under pressure and capitulation to BLM. Those days are now officially over. In fact, it does appear as if George Floyd murals are being literally demolished all over the country. I mean, take a look at that. BLM is dead. BLM, which turned out to be more or less a financial scam, but BLM is dead. The murals are being painted over and the historic monuments are being restored. And the national ramifications for this simply cannot possibly be overestimated. What Trump is doing here is simply formalizing into law what's already been happening for years now. I mean, the fact of the matter is, whether anyone likes it or not, an untold number of BLM murals and George Floyd monuments have all been vandalized and defaced all across the country. This was once widely reported on, but in point of fact, I mean, the case, as I understand, the cases of vandalism become so commonplace, so numerous, it's not even considered newsworthy anymore. But that said, the fact that President Trump has ordered the process of removing both BLM murals as well as restoring so many of the civic monuments that were taken down during the cowardly Biden years shows that Trump is taking culture, particularly American civic culture, very, very seriously in a way that no other Republican president has done. Victor Davis Hanson actually just wrote a really excellent article where he noted that while our previous Republican presidents paid lip service to defending traditional American culture, they didn't do anything about it. They did literally nothing to stop the left, the cultural Marxist left's capture of our cultural institutions over the last few decades. Even red state Republican governors largely turned a blind eye to the increasing wokeification of our culture within their respective states. They allowed the campuses of their state universities to get radicalized. They allowed the BLM murals to go up everywhere with very, very little pushback, lest they be accused of being racist. Whereas Trump don't care. Trump is actually doing something about this. He's actively fighting the culture wars, and he's fighting it even at the level of monuments. And that is absolutely huge, because both the erecting of monuments and painting murals, as well as their defacing and vandalizing and being taken down, prove that sculpture and art do in fact continue to have tremendous iconic significance in our culture today. The key to understanding the role of art and culture, particularly our statues, our monuments, our paintings, our sculpted images, is that they embody, they symbolize the eternity of the ideas that they substantiate, the ideas and values that they substantiate. So you see this explicitly in the use of enduring materials like marble or stone. They convey the notion that the values embodied by the image are long lasting. Indeed, in many respects, the ideas and values are considered eternal. So, for example, a grand European cathedral is a monument to the enduring truth of the Christian faith. The 1,000-year-old stone building is a testimony that this is a faith that lasts 1,000 years. We all have an opportunity to finally stop big tech and government overreach. It's happening, gang. Patriots are reclaiming our privacy, and you have no better way of protecting yourself than with SLNT. That's short for silent. Silent's Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key FOBs to phones and laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today by clicking on that link below or going to slnt.com/Turley to save 15% plus free shipping on all qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/Turley for 15% off and free shipping on all qualified orders. slnt.com/Turley. So the key here is that what we instantiate in our monuments and our murals are cultural ideals that we believe are as permanent as the monument itself. This is why we go to DC, right? In terms of sightseeing, right? All the monuments that we go to see in DC are all monuments to timeless ideals that are as permanent as the monuments themselves. So then this begs the question, what does it mean when we start knocking down or defacing or erasing these monuments and murals? Well, it obviously means that those ideals are an affront to those who are defacing them. The defacers, the vandals, as it were, they want nothing to do with them. That's what happened to the Berlin Wall back in the late 80s. The knocking down of the Berlin Wall was symbolic that the world that wall represented had itself fallen. That's the key. The knocking down of the Berlin Wall was a symbol that the world that wall had represented for all those decades had itself fallen. The fall of the wall was symbolic of the fall of the ideals that put the wall up in the first place. So the irony of what's happening here is that the very iconoclasm, you know that word, right? The smashing and defacing and tearing down of statues, the very iconoclasm that gave birth to the BLM movement back in 2020, when BLM protesters were vandalizing our historic monuments and statues in every city in the nation. The irony here is that iconoclasm is now being effectively reversed. What Trump is doing here with BLM Plaza, that's even been renamed as I understand it, in raising that whole thing down or in covering it up, he is reversing the iconoclasm. Now BLM and their ideals are the victims of iconoclasm. Now their statues are being taken down and their murals are being defaced. And many of the statues and monuments that were torn down are being returned. They're being restored. It's that twofold movement, and it's always going to be twofold. If monuments are being struck down, new monuments will always be erected, because as one set of values are being torn down, a new set of values are going to replace them, and they're going to be monumentalized. I mean, I think this is an extraordinary symbol of the MAGA movement and America First. And ironically, this is just actually an American outworking, a specifically American outworking of a larger international politics that's rising up all over the world. You know, really what's happening here with the end of BLM and the return of our great civic monuments is what scholars call restoration politics. It's a pretty fitting term for what's happening here. And this is something that's happening all over the world, at least wherever we're seeing the rise of populist movements successfully coming to power, because liberal globalism operates by something called emancipatory politics. So it's just a fancy schmancy way of, of a politics that claims to liberate oppressed people groups. And it does it by dismantling a population's culture. So emancipatory politics basically recasts a nation's unique culture, customs, and traditions as, racist, bigoted, all kinds of phobic, all the woke categories. So because liberal globalism operates with this emancipatory politics, it replaces a nation's unique culture with woke liberal norms that supposedly liberate and emancipate all kinds of groups that have now been, considered like marginalized. And so that's what accounted for this sort of woke fad that infested so much of the West over the last 4 years. What's happening now is that globalist structure, that globalist foundation for emancipatory politics and its monuments is waning all over the world in a manner comparable to how communism's wane ended up presaging, as it were, the fall of the Berlin Wall. For a number of reasons, but primarily because of what scholars call post-security politics, where globalism inevitably erodes and destroys the very securities that we were promised as part of the nation state, right? Border security, economic security, cultural security. Because of the erosion of those securities all around the world, more and more populations are pushing back against that erosion by re-embracing their nationalism, their culture, their customs, their traditions as mechanisms of resistance against these anti-cultural processes of globalization. But the more globalization wanes, the more its politics, its unique emancipatory politics are replaced. And that replacement is what's called restoration politics. And that's the new political era that we're entering into. Restoration politics is all about re-implementing re-traditionalized policies in every sphere of life. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing here in restoring these monuments that were taken down during the Biden years, all the while at the same time erasing the BLM murals like the BLM Plaza in DC. This is restoration politics. And it really does appear to be the politics of the future. We talked about this in our earlier video today, the first one actually I put up today, where I highlighted an article by political analyst Alex Castellanos, who he basically argued that the fundamental problem ultimately for the Democrats is not their messaging, obviously, or even their issues. It's the fact that the world that current Democrat policies were shaped by simply no longer exists. In his words, the Democrat Party is basically anachronistic. I love how he said it. He wrote that their obsolescence runs deeper than their ideas. How's that for a turn of phrase? Their obsolescence runs deeper than their ideas. In other words, the world that they represent, the world from which their ideas emerge, the old liberal industrial world, doesn't exist anymore. Any more than the world of the Berlin Wall still exists. The Democrats are imploding because the world that they represent has collapsed. Restoration politics are the politics of the future. And now, increasingly, we have the return of the monuments to prove it. Hey there, Turley Talker. You know what? I'd love to hear from you. That's why I'm launching the Dr. Steve Hotline, where you can call in, leave a question, and maybe even hear your own voice featured on an upcoming episode of the show. Whether it's about the latest political shakeup or cultural trends or how we keep pushing forward in this new conservative age, I want to know what's on your mind. Call me at 717-844-5984. Just leave your question. I'll be checking in every single week to answer as many as I can. Again, that's 717-844-5984. Your chance to be a part of the conversation. One more time, 717-844-5984. Give me a call and let's talk.